Hi guys, Sean here, Metal Mates again. Just thought I'd start a new sort of feature, maybe weekly or bi-weekly, don't know yet, see how it goes, and call it my Armchair Ramble. Got my new armchair here, as you all know from my last video, so perfect place, come and sit and picked a few topics that I've heard about recently on videos and stuff like that. So I thought, why not have a talk? You can all make your comments and tell me what you think about different things that I discuss and talk about, and I'd like to hear what you guys think, and if you want to comment, that's fine. Watched the podcast the other day from the Plastic Crack guys, and one of the topics that they came up with was there's a difference between military modelling and wargaming. And I thought to myself, well, you know, what a great topic to discuss. Fortunately, I don't get to watch it live. I have to watch it afterwards, so I don't get to comment. So I thought, right, I was thinking about that. And I have another thought. I thought my personal opinion to all of this is, having been around since I was a kid doing all this stuff, is I started off playing with the airfix soldiers, we all did, and building Tamiya kits. And I have to say, when I first got into wargaming, I thought it was very different, because wargaming back then was all about lead figures, which were already built and everything for you, and you got the figures, you painted them, and you sorted out your war games. More recently, since we got far more plastics that have come along, resins, all that kind of stuff, I have to say that I think military modelling and wargaming have linked into almost come one and the same. You only have to watch a lot of the YouTube channels that are out there, and the things that people are doing with their figures. You know, they're calling it kit bashing. Used to be called converting in the old days of the metal stuff, but so much easier now with plastics. Although, like I say, having come through with Tamiya stuff like I did in the 1/35th scale, I used to almost go game with that kind of stuff, just building different figures out of the sprues that you got. And I do think that at the moment, military modelling and wargaming are fusing together. It's becoming something good to watch as well. I mean, Steve is fantastic at it on the Plastic Crack. There's loads more out there, just using Steve as an example. I mean, what he does with the plastics, turns them out. I don't think any of them are standard figures. It got to the extent where I dug out all my own stuff just recently, boxes of sprues of plastic figures in World War II, just to have a go again. Looking, I found that I had a lot of 1/48 scale Tamiya kits, which are perfect. So there's a project for me in the future, I'm sure, when I finish the ones I'm supposed to be doing. So you tell me what you think. Another topic that I decided to maybe have a bit of a ramble about was what somebody said about recently, was the seriousness. I saw this on some, I think it was on YouTube, I don't know, but it was about serious wargaming and fun wargaming. I have to admit, when I first came into the hobby back in the day, and I've met people like Ian Smith, Bill Gaskin, Dave Thomas, I met Pete Morby of Elite Miniatures. I was quite fortunate. Duncan McFarlane, who used to do Wargames Illustrated. I remember going around shows, and these guys were quite fun people to be around and quite a good laugh. But I would go around shows with these guys when I was still in my early 20s, and I did say there was two sides to the hobby. You got these competition games, and you had a bit of laughing and stuff going on, but you'd go around to the big massive games that were put on and things like that, and you would see some serious war gamers. Those guys, you know, it was all about winning, and it was all about the rules, and it was getting the rules right. And you'd stand at the side of a table, no one would speak to you, and there would be some serious discussions going on about what was happening during that. I think I was fortunate. I was friends with Rob Baker, Nick Whiteley, who used to make beautiful buildings, and we saw more in the fun side of it, as the same with Ian, and it was more about moving dioramas for us. I do remember going once to Peter Gilder's place in Folkestone, down Scarborough, the holiday centre there. That was for wargaming. I can remember we went to play a game of Gettysburg, And there was Pete Morby, there was myself and Rob, Ian Smith was there, Duncan McFarlane, some big names in the hobby back at the time in the 90s. And we were going to play Gettysburg. Now, most of the figures had been brought by ourselves to play, and the guys set the game out for us on the day. Well, as you can imagine, in 2 days of playing Gettysburg, what went on was nobody's business. Jerry Miller, a good friend of ours from up north, he brought himself along some Rush's Lancers that had just had painted for him, which were gorgeous. So on the second day of Gettysburg, we were having Rush's Lancers charged right across the field, even though they never did, because Jerry just had them painted and he wanted to see them on the game. There was no ground batteries, but Duncan found a way to make sure that the ground batteries went up on that hill by leaving a little inch gap between 4 or 5 guns. Ian Smith was fighting Pete Morby in what was supposed to be the peat orchard, but it was that densely packed with trees that it took them 2 days to actually move about 10 inches each with no real fighting going on, and it was supposed to be a peach orchard, but we were laughing the whole time. So to us, you know, I always remember Tony Runke playing against Jerry Miller. Tony was coming through up to Culp's Hill from Gettysburg. Every time one of his Confederate units got pushed back, they went round into Gettysburg, turned round and came back up the hill again. It was so funny. Jerry must have sussed it after so long, but that was the fun side of the game. So there are two sides, aren't there? And I think that's the way I've always played. I'm looking for fun. That's why I think the new rules that come out more recently, especially the Lardies guys, I love their rules simply because there's a fun element to it as well. Whether wargaming should have that fun element, I don't know. But I bet you guys will be able to give me some comments and tell me what you think. I'd be more than happy to respond. But I have to say, I like the fun side. I like going around, I like getting the figures, I like buying the figures, I like thinking about what I'm going to do with the figures. I like stacking them in masses of boxes and then putting them in a corner because I never get around to painting so many of them. But it's that thing in your head, isn't it? You have that idea in your head of what you want to do with these figures. And you say to yourself, yes, that's what I want to play with them. That's the kind of thing. My next one, historical accuracy. A big one in wargaming, I think. I love studying the history of something. Especially if I'm going to start on something new, a new period, painting some new stuff. My workshop next door, absolutely full of books. Uniform detail books, all that kind of stuff, but also history books. History upon history upon history. Love researching it, love looking at stuff. Often get things wrong because you find out years later something wasn't necessarily as accurate as you thought it was, but you did your best at the time. But when it comes to wargaming and historical accuracy, I suppose it fits with the last topic we were just talking about. I mean, I've gamed display games at shows with Ian Smith for a long time, doing 40mm more recently, down at Salute a few times. And Ian has picked a theme for that, Sharp being the first one with the Napoleonics. And then we did that gorgeous American Civil War one where he had his massive fort. And all I can say is with Ian, as is with me, I think, Ian loves the idea of periods, but he's not really looking for an historical accurate battle. He's actually looking more for what's the big names from that period and how can I use them and bring them in and put them together. For instance, when we did the Napoleonic one, we had every trial nation, because we did Spain and it was a sharp sort of thing. We had Legion de Midi for the French, we had Swiss, we had Italians, we had Neapolitans. We were looking for colour to put over on the table, as well as regular French units. We had Highlanders for the British. Excuse me, we had Spanish out there in their lovely uniforms. We had cavalry, looking for the best type of cavalry we could put out that people would recognise. I think like when we did the American Civil War one, and we actually originally did that 10 years previous, and then it went away and came back. We had Custer's cavalry, we had Texans, we had Zouaves, we had even a regiment of artillery that were being used as infantry. The whole thing was to try and give you the variant on the table. So for me personally, historical accuracy isn't necessarily what I aim for, but I can understand why a lot of people do that, because to pick a corps from any kind of battle and from any kind of period, and to follow that process and then build that up and make that into what it is that you're looking for to start with and advance it. It's a great idea, but I can't understand why people start to think, oh well, you're not quite doing it right because you've got them fighting with them and they never did fight with them and that kind of thing. So I mean, to me personally, historical accuracy in what you're doing with the troops, how they move, what kind of things they can and can't do, how they fight, yeah, I think you've got to stick with the period, or else what's the point in playing a period? But putting together troops that maybe never necessarily fought side by side, and then fighting them because you like them, well, surely that's the whole idea of it being hobby and being part of the hobby. So that's just my opinion. I mean, if you guys have any more ideas on that, anything more things you want to say, put them down. Great for me. I'd love to discuss it further. I'd love to talk about more stuff like that. So put them down in the comments. Another thing I want to talk about is the online community at the moment. I've only joined, I say, YouTube channeling about 10 months ago. I started a blog a year or two before that. I had the website before then. I've been painting and I've been doing commissions for people since I was in my 20s, way back. So it's been a few years. But I have to say, I think at this moment in time, and with what we've gone through with COVID, the online community, keeping people going through this with discussions and talks and videos and blogs and things and vlogs about the hobby, I think it's fantastic. I think to me it's given the hobby a renaissance. It's brought it back into people's minds. It's given them more things to do. I remember the lads on the podcast were discussing the hobby and the way forward of the hobby. I know a few months ago people were talking about, is historical wargaming failing? I don't think it is. I think it's reassessed itself, and it's coming back in many different ways. You've only got to look at the amount of blogs that are out there. You've only got to look at the YouTube channels. A lot of these people are actually enjoying making the videos, like myself doing this. Actually painting their figures more because they want to show them off, and I don't blame them. Get your figures on the table. Let's see how you game. Let's see what you've got there. Let's have a look at the way you adapt rules to fit how you want. Before I go, the one last thing I'd like to talk about, and I'll do it really quick, is plastic figures. And it really runs through a lot of what we've been talking about through the whole thing, starting with the modelling. I think plastic figures have been nothing but a revelation for us. Especially 28mm people like myself. When the plastic figures came out, when the Perrys brought them out, and Vitrix and Gripping Beast, I think what those guys did for the hobby, I don't think they realise. Because now you can not only buy figures cheaply to play the kind of games you want to play, but you can do so many different things with them. The modelling side of it, people are just having fun doing that kind of stuff. I have heard a lot of people say they don't buy the plastics because they don't like having to put them together. I think it's part and parcel of a piece that was missing maybe in my hobby life, just painting metal figures. To be able to build something and turn it into something else. I mean, I did a video a short while ago about when the first Napoleonic figures came out, that you could mix and match, which some people told me they didn't even realise or think about doing that. You can mix and match different companies. It's so easy to flick a head off, and if somebody's got something that the ones that you're using haven't, swap and change. It's plastic. It's so easy to do. It's so easy to kit bash, as the world will come today. But I can understand the hardened gamers who prefer the metal. I have to admit, picking up a metal figure to game with, or a set of 6 on a base or 8, does give you that feel of wargaming. I know a few people who have put weighted metal onto the bottom of bases to give it that feel when they pick it up and put it in their hand. But you tell me what you think out there, guys. You let me know your comments. Let me know your ideas, and let's take it from there. Okay, so I think I'm running out of time now. I think it's time for me to clear off. I had enough sitting easy in my armchair. Got loads of stuff to paint, so I'll be off. And thank you.